All right, this is the second part of 3-1, talking about relations and functions. So if you never watched the first part yet, go back and watch the first part. This is part 2. All right, so we started talking about yesterday, or on the video, the first part, we started talking about different functions and relations and domain and range. We started doing that. So the second video is just a bunch of examples just to make sure we fully understand what a relation is and what a function is, and the domain and range. All right, so here we have a graph, and what we want to do is, first of all, this is a function. Again, if you started listing all the points on here, there's an infinite amount of points, but let's just say like -5, -5, 4 is a point, and then so is this, so is that, so is that, so is that. So there's an infinite amount of points here, an infinite amount. And notice it's not just a bunch of dots. There's so many dots. That's why it's continuous. That's a solid line. It's a continuous function. And so and every x has one value. So -5, 4, is a value. And we talked about this last problem that we just did. We noticed that this, like we said, -2 goes to 2 different numbers, and so it's not a function. And the same thing with +3, it goes to 2 possible numbers, which can't happen, so it's not a function. But here's an easy way to tell. Notice at -2 right here, notice if you draw a vertical line, you notice it crosses at 2 different points. See, at -2, it went to 2 different points. Same thing with x = 3. If you draw a vertical line, it crosses at 2 different points, and that means it's not a function. All right, so that's it. It's called the vertical line test. All we have to do is look at a function, look at a graph, and this is a relation, because a relation, remember, is just a set of points, and this is a bunch of points put together. And is it a function though? Well, if you draw a vertical line anywhere on there, I just draw, draw it here, draw it there, does it draw it here? Does it cross at any 2 points? No, it just hits right there at one spot, hits right there at one spot, hits right there at one spot, hits it right there at one spot. So this is a function because it passes the vertical line test. Again, if it hits it in 2 spots, it's not a function. Now, the domain, remember, is the x value. So it's on the x line. So look at this function. Notice the farthest left is right here at -5 on the x line. And the farthest right is right here at +4. So it literally, on the x line, it goes from -5 to 4. So one way to write this, notice x is in between -5 and 4. Notice I have my lesser number here, my greater number here. So x is in between those. I also want you to notice I put an equal sign because it does include those. Those do have closed circles. So x is in between. It's all of the x's in between it. All of them. All the fractions, decimals, every number in between -5 and 4. Now, another way to write this, you don't have to write it like that. You could use a bracket notation. So -5 and 4. So it goes from to the left. It starts at -5. And again, the bracket is like a closed circle. And then it goes all the way to 4. And again, the bracket is a closed circle. So that you could write it that way. So either one of these ways is the correct way to write the domain. Now the range is on your y line. It's all the outputs. So if you look at the lowest that it goes on the y line, it's -3. And the highest it goes on the y line is 6. So it goes from -3, and notice it's the y, and it goes all the way to 6. And again, notice the lowest numbers there and the greatest numbers there. So y is in between -3 and 6. Again, another way you could do it is with brackets, -3 all the way to 6. And again, because it has an equal sign, that's the same thing as a closed circle or bracket. So either one of these ways is the correct way for the range. So let's look at this function. Well, again, it isn't a function. It is a relation. A relation is just a collection of points. But is it a function? Well, remember the vertical line test. So, draw a vertical line, and does it cross it just one spot? Yes, it does. Draw another vertical line. Does it cross it just one spot? I mean, you could see that it's only going to cross it one spot. So yes, this is a function. And again, the domain is talking about your x. So look to your farthest to your left. It's right there at 1. And the farthest to the right is at 5. So it goes from 1 to 5 on the x line. Or the other way to do it is with brackets. So again, that's the correct way to write the domain. Now, the range is, again, the y line, and so you want to look at the lowest, which is 0, all the way to the highest, which is 4. So from 0 to 4. So it literally starts at 0, goes to 4 on the y line. And again, we're talking about the y, so 0 to 4. And again, it is closed. And these are closed circles, okay, that they have. So that's an equal sign, and that's why we're going to use brackets as well. Again, either one of these ways is correct. So whichever one you feel more comfortable with. If you like the bracket system, then use the bracket system. If you like, where x is in between or y is in between the two numbers, then that's fine as well. Again, the lesser number is on the left. All right, so here's a relation. It's a bunch of points graphed together, so it's a relation. So is it a function? Well, again, function, draw your vertical line test. So just draw a vertical line. Hey, it only crosses one spot. Draw a vertical line. It only crosses at one spot. A vertical line, vertical line. See, it only crosses at one spot, so it is yes. Yes, this is a function. Now, the domain, again, the domain is your x line. So from the farthest left that it goes, which is right here at -2, to the farthest right it goes, is +2. But I want you to notice at +2, it's an open circle. So if you did it this notation, the farthest left that it goes is -2. Remember, the lesser number goes here. And then I'm just going to put a greater than or less than sign. That's the less than sign. I'm not going to put an equal sign because it's an open circle. And that's +2. So the way to write this in, the other way to do this is -2 with a bracket, and then +2 with a parenthesis. Remember, parenthesis is the same thing as an open circle. Brackets are the same thing as a closed circle. So again, either one of these notations is fine. Now the range is talking about the y line. So again, the lowest that it goes is right here at -2. And notice it's an open circle. And the highest that it goes is +3. And that's a closed circle. So again, we have y, and the lowest that it goes is -2. But again, it's an open circle, so it does not have an equal sign. And then the highest number goes all the way up to +3. Well, again, you can also write this as well, -2 with parentheses, because again, it only has this. It does not include -2. And then it goes all the way to +3, which would be a bracket, because it does include that. All right, so let's look at this. This is just nothing. It looks like a circle, and well, it is a circle. But notice it's just a relation. A relation is just a bunch of points. So there's a ton of points here. So there's a point there, there's a point there, there's a point. It's just a bunch of continuous points all the way around. An infinite amount of points all the way around. And it is continuous because it keeps going all the way around. It's a solid line. But if you draw your vertical line test, like just pick a line anywhere, and notice it crosses at 2 spots. So this is not a function because it crosses at 2 points. A vertical line does. And so that settles it. It's not a function. But we can still talk about the domain and the range. The domain, there is no domain of the function, but there is a domain of the relation. of all those points. So the domain of this, again, it's talking about the x, and the farthest left that it goes is 0, and the farthest right it goes is 6. So we have 0 to 6, or again, if you're using the other system, it would look like that. The range is the y line, and so it's the lowest that it goes on the y line to the highest that it goes is, again, 0 to 6. So it's going to look almost identical, again, on the y line to do this. And again, they're solid lines, that's why they have brackets, and that's why they have the equal sign with it. All right, let's look at this. This is just it starts somewhere and then it keeps going one direction. So is this a function? Well, again, draw a vertical line and notice it crosses at one spot, crosses at one spot. So yeah, yes, it is a function. And then what is the domain? Well, the domain on this is interesting because notice it starts at 0. Domain is your x, and let me use blue. I started with blue, so let me keep doing blue. So it starts at 0, but notice it's an open circle, like that. And notice it goes all the way, and it keeps going. Notice the arrow. So it literally keeps going more and more and more. So the x's keep getting bigger. Here's 7, here's 8, here's 9, here's 10, here's 11. So it literally keeps going on forever. So you would just literally say it goes all the way to infinity. And again, infinity is not actually a number, it's just a concept. So that's why it has to be less than, and you would not put an equal sign with it. Another way to write this is integral notation. Again, you just do 0 all the way to infinity, parentheses both sides. There's actually a third way you could do it. You could just simply say x is greater than 0, because it's all the numbers greater than 0, and that would be the easiest way to actually write this. To better do that. Now, what is the range? The range is all the y values. So you're going to look at the lowest that it goes is 1, and notice it's an open circle, and so we could just start here, and notice it keeps going because the arrow, it keeps getting higher and higher and higher on the y line as well. So we could write like this all the way to infinity. Another way to do this using parentheses would be 1 all the way to infinity. And again, there's a third way to write this particular problem because it's y is greater than 1. All of the y's. Here's 1 on the y line, and it's all of the y's greater than that. So you could actually write it that way as well. So again, that's different ways you can write, noticing if it's a function or not, and then noticing the domain and the range.